Welcome to Bite at a Time Books, where we read you your favorite classics one bite at a time. My name is Bree Carlile, and I love to read and wanted to share my passion with listeners like you. You can sign up for our newsletter at biteatatimebooks.com. You'll also find our new t-shirts in the shop, including podcast shirts and quote shirts from your favorite classic novels. Be sure to follow my show on your favorite podcast platform so you get all the new episodes. We're part of the Bite at a Time Books Productions Network. If you'd also like to hear what inspired your favorite classic author to write their novels, and what was going on in the world at the time, check out the Bite at a Time Books Behind the Story podcast, wherever you listen to podcasts. Today we'll be continuing Les Miserables by Victor Hugo. Chapter 6. The Substitute. It chanced that the regiment to which Lieutenant Théodule belonged came to perform garrison duty in Paris. This inspired Aunt Gillenormand with a second idea. She had, on the first occasion, hit upon the plan of having Marius spied upon by Théodule. Now she plotted to have Théodule take Marius's place. At all events, and in case the grandfather should feel the vague need of a young face in the house, these rays of dawn are sometimes sweet to ruin. It was expedient to find another Marius. Take it as a simple errandom, she thought, such as one sees in books. For Marius, read Théodule. A grandnephew is almost the same as a grandson. In default of a lawyer, one takes a lancer. One morning, when Monsieur Gillenormand was about to read something in the Quotidienne, his daughter entered and said to him in her sweetest voice, for the question concerned her favorite, "Father, Théodule is coming to present his respects to you this morning." "Who's Théodule?" "Your grandnephew." "Ah," said the grandfather. Then he went back to his reading. Thought no more of his grandnephew, who was merely some Théodule or other, and soon flew into a rage which almost always happened when he read the sheet, which he held, although royalist, of course, announced for the following day, without any softening phrases, one of these little events which were of daily occurrence at that date in Paris, that the students of the schools of law and medicine were to assemble on the Place du Panthéon at midday to deliberate. The discussion concerned one of the questions of the moment, the artillery of the National Guard, and a conflict between the Minister of War and the citizens' militia on the subject of the cannon parked in the courtyard of the Louvre. The students were to deliberate over this. It did not take much more than this to swell Monsieur Gillenormand's rage. He thought of Marius, who was a student, and who would probably go with the rest, to deliberate at midday on the Place du Panthéon. As he was indulging in this painful dream, Lieutenant Théodule entered clad in plain clothes as a bourgeois, which was clever of him, and was discreetly introduced by Mademoiselle Gillenormand. The lancer had reasoned as follows. The old druid has not sunk all his money in a life pension. It is well to disguise oneself as a civilian from time to time. Mademoiselle Gillenormand said aloud to her father, "Théodule, your grandnephew," and in a low voice to the lieutenant, "Approve of everything." And she withdrew. The lieutenant, who was but little accustomed to such venerable encounters, stammered with some timidity, "Good day, uncle," and made a salute composed of the involuntary and mechanical outline of the military salute, finished off as a bourgeois salute. "Ah, so it's you. That is well, sit down," said the old gentleman. That said, he totally forgot the lancer. Théodule seated himself, and Monsieur Gillenormand rose. Monsieur Gillenormand began to pace back and forth, his hands in his pockets, talking aloud and twitching, with his irritated old fingers, at the two watches which he wore in his two fobs. "That pack of brats. They convene on the Place du Panthéon, by my life. Urchins who were with their nurses but yesterday. If one were to squeeze their noses, milk would burst out, and they deliberate tomorrow at midday. What are we coming to? What are we coming to? It is clear that we are making for the abyss. That is what the descamiseros have brought us to deliberate on the citizen artillery, to go and jabber in the open air over the jibes of the National Guard. And with whom are they to meet there? Just see whither Jacobinism leads. I will bet anything you like. $1,000,000 against a counter that there will be no one there but returned convicts and released galley slaves. The Republicans and the galley slaves, they form but one nose and one handkerchief. Carnot used to say, 'Where would you have me go, traitor?' Fauché replied. Where you please, imbecile. That's what the Republicans are like. That is true, said Theodule. Monsieur Gillenormand half turned his head, saw Theodule, and went on. When one reflects that that scoundrel was so vile as to turn Carbonaro, why did you leave my house? To go and become a Republican? Psh! In the first place, the people want none of your republic. They have common sense. They know well that there always have been kings, and that there always will be. They know well that the people are only the people, after all. They make sport of it, of your republic. Do you understand, idiot? Is it not a horrible caprice? To fall in love with Père Duchesne? To make sheep's eyes at the guillotine? To sing romances and play on the guitar under the balcony of 93. It is enough to make one spit on all these young fellows. Such fools are they. They are all alike. Not one escapes. It suffices for them to breathe the air which blows through the street to lose their senses. The 19th century is poison. The first scamp that happens along lets his beard grow like a goat's, thinks himself a real scoundrel, and abandons his old relatives. He's a Republican. He's a romantic. What does that mean, romantic? Do me the favor to tell me what it is. All possible follies. A year ago they ran to Hernani. Now I ask you, Hernani, antithesis, abominations which are not even written in French. And then they have cannons in the courtyard of the Louvre. Such are the rascalities of this age. You're right, uncle, said Theodule. Monsieur Gillenormand resumed. Cannons in the courtyard of the museum. For what purpose? Do you want to fire grape shot at the Apollo Belvedere? What have those cartridges to do with the Venus de Medici? Oh, the young men of the present day are all blackguards. What a pretty creatures they're Benjamin Constant. And those who are not rascals are simpletons. They do all they can to make themselves ugly. They are badly dressed, they are afraid of women, in the presence of petticoats they have a mendicant air which sets the girls into fits of laughter. On my word of honor, one would say the poor creatures were ashamed of love. They are deformed, and they complete themselves by being stupid. They repeat the puns of Tiercelin and Podier. They have sack coats, stablemen's waistcoats, shirts of coarse linen, trousers of coarse cloth, boots of coarse leather, and their rigmarole resembles their plumage. One might make use of their jargon to put new soles on their old shoes. And all this awkward batch of brats has political opinions, if you please. Political opinion should be strictly forbidden. They fabricate systems, they recast society, they demolish the monarchy, they fling all laws to the earth. They put the attic in the cellar's place and my porter in the place of the king. They turn Europe topsy-turvy. They reconstruct the world, and all their love affairs consist in staring silly at the ankles of the laundresses as these women climb into their carts. Ah, Marius, you blackguard, to go and vociferate on the public place, to discuss, to debate, to take measures. They call that measures, just God. Disorder humbles itself and becomes silly. I have seen chaos. I now see a mess. Students deliberating on the National Guard. Such a thing could not be seen among the Okobibwas, nor the Kadoshis, savages who go naked with their noddles dressed like a shuttlecock, with a club in their paws, are less of brutes than those bachelors of arts, the four-penny monkeys, and they set up for judges. Those creatures deliberate and raticinate. The end of the world is come. This is plainly the end of this miserable terra quies globe. A final hiccough was required, and France has admitted it. Deliberate, my rascals. Such things will happen so long as they go and read the newspapers until the arcades of the Odeon. That costs them a sou, and their good sense, and their intelligence, and their heart, and their soul, and their wits. They emerge thence and decamp from their families. All newspapers are pests. All, even the Drapeau Blanc. At bottom, Martinville was a Jacobin. Just heaven, you may boast of having driven your grandfather to despair, that you may. That is evident, said Theodule. Then, profiting by the fact that Monsieur Gillenormand was taking a breath, the Lancer added in a magisterial manner, there should be no other newspaper than the Montier, and no other book than the Annuaire Militaire. Monsieur Gillenormand continued, It is like their Sieyès, a regicide ending in a senator, for that is the way they always end. They give themselves a scar with the address of thou as citizens, in order to get themselves called eventually Monsieur le Count. Monsieur le Count, as big as my arm, assassins of September, the philosopher Sienese. I will do myself the justice to say that I have never had any better opinion of the philosophies of all those philosophers than of the spectacles of the grimacer of Tivoli. One day I saw the senators cross the Quai Malapert in mantles of violet velvet sewn with bees, with hats a la Henry IV. They were hideous. One would have pronounced them monkeys from the tiger's court. Citizens, I declare to you that your progress is madness, that your humanity is a dream, that your revolution is a crime, that your republic is a monster, that your young and virgin France comes from the brothel, and I maintain it against all, whoever you may be, whether journalists, economists, legists, or even were you better judges of liberty, of equality, of fraternity, than the knife of the guillotine, and that I announce to you, my fine fellows. "Parbleu!" cried the lieutenant. "That is wonderfully true." Monsieur Gillenormand paused in a gesture which he had begun, wheeled round, stared Lancer Theodule intently in the eyes, and said to him, "You are a fool." Thank you for joining Bite at a Time Books today, while we read a bite of one of your favorite classics. Again, my name is Bree Carlile, and I hope you come back tomorrow for the next bite of Les Miserables. Don't forget, you can sign up for our newsletter at biteatatimebooks.com. And while you're there, check out our t-shirt shop. You can look in the show notes or on our website, biteatatimebooks.com, for the rest of the links for our show. We'd love to hear from you on social media. You can find us everywhere at Bite at a Time Books.